the U.S. Department of Justice has continued to defend its ban on cannabis consumers exercising their right to bear arms. Could an oft overlooked line in a 2019 memo offer insight into how the U.S. government decides who to go after? Apparently, the FBI says being a state registered medical marijuana caregiver or grower does not automatically disqualify you as a person from owning a firearm. But any old citizen possessing a medical cannabis card as a patient does make you ineligible. The reason noted in their memo was medical marijuana patients and everyday consumers pose unique dangers to society that justify withholding Second Amendment rights. With nationwide crime rising and cash-heavy cannabis businesses seen as an easy target for many aspiring criminals, tensions have been rising between federal gun policies and ever-expanding state legislation movements. But as reported by Marijuana Moment, a little noticed FBI memo from 2019 offers a lens into how federal agencies interpret the nuances surrounding cannabis and firearms, an issue that's recently been raised in multiple federal court cases. Per the article, the government has several ways that it assesses firearm eligibility in the context of cannabis, according to the memo from FBI's Criminal Justice Information Services Division, which was briefly noted in a report from New York Times last week. In some cases, that involves affirmatively restricting gun rights based on activities or documentation that doesn't necessarily mean a person is an active marijuana consumer. At their core, the federal rules say that being an unlawful user of a controlled substance, including marijuana, means a person cannot buy or possess a gun. Would-be gun purchasers are required to disclose such use as part of a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives form before making a purchase, and lying on that form is a felony offense. The federal government's interpretation of the policy is apparently more nuanced, as evidenced by the memo from CJIS's National Instant Criminal Background Check System section that's gone largely unscrutinized since being published more than 4 years ago. A person's firearm eligibility is partly determined by whether their use of a controlled substance is deemed quote-unquote current. FBI says that it is not limited to the use of drugs on a particular day or within a matter of days or weeks before, but rather that the unlawful use has occurred recently enough to indicate the individual is actively engaged in such conduct, end quote. ATF has determined that the present time is represented by the time frame of within the past 12 months. That's what the memo says. The article goes deep into what DOJ and FBI are looking for in these cases, but basically they're saying as long as you're an owner or operator of a cannabis business, a caretaker, if you will, and there's no available evidence of you consuming cannabis within the last 12 months, they'll leave you alone. A direct excerpt from the memo reads as such. The following scenarios will be used to determine the disqualification period in regard to possession of a medical marijuana user card. 1 year from the date of the medical marijuana user's card expiration date, or 2, 1 year from the date of quote-unquote admission of possession of the medical marijuana user card if no expiration date is available, or 3, 1 year from the date the medical marijuana user card is relinquished. Use of the marijuana or other controlled substance must be established for the prohibition to exist. FBI says. Similarly, an individual may possess a medical marijuana handler's card as a caregiver, grower, or provider for another party, but would not be disqualified unless use was established. Marijuana Moment also points out that other rules detailed in the memo apply broadly to any controlled substance, but stand out for their administrative specificity. For instance, when a person is convicted of possession or use of an illicit drug, FBI counts that as evidence of present use within the last year, regardless of the length of time since the arrest itself. If a person is arrested but their conviction is deferred or through a pretrial diversion program, that judgment cannot be used as evidence of current use. Instead, the memo says, that information must be taken from the arrest report. When it comes to arrests for drug paraphernalia, that on its own does not automatically disqualify for firearm ownership. However, such an arrest in the past year can also be researched to determine if the incident report shows that the individual admitted to the use or possession of controlled substance at the time of paraphernalia arrest. Now, I don't know about y'all, but the fact that they have to go and get so nuanced in what does and does not constitute as grounds for my eligibility to exercise my Second Amendment rights tells me that they know that they're in the wrong and they are flailing, cherry picking reasons to harass law abiding citizens, making an effort to protect their businesses, their homes, and their families in a country where their very own agencies are struggling to provide valid reasons to exist. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a fervent supporter of the right to bear arms for reasons obvious and not. I swear to y'all that I try my best to respect the rule of law and the ones charged with the heavy burden of keeping the peace. But shit like this tends to shift my personal allegiances further into the opposite lane, if y'all picking up what I'm putting down. But those are just my thoughts as Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High Nine News. I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks about this one. Devil's in the details, Jason.
I mean, every time I hear or think about the topic of gun ownership and how it's viewed as it coincides with cannabis, it's really defeating for individuals like us who have been advocating for this plant our entire lives. It's also equally defeating because it just makes me ask the question about relationship to alcohol and gun issues and how you can own alcohol and you can own firearms. And I'm just wondering what kind of data there is out there in the world that shows the correlation between owning a firearm and cannabis use being lethal or dangerous versus alcohol. We've all heard of alcohol-related accidental shootings over the years. But this question just looms very heavily for me. And then also, does utilizing cannabis to treat any kind of symptom of a health issue at all suddenly make you incapable of utilizing a firearm correctly? I don't believe so.
Rico,
the article gets pretty granular, but one thing that they did say in there that I did not actually cut from my script today was they said that they believe they have reason to believe, they have valid reason to believe that marijuana users will not store their firearms properly or will not keep them safely.
Oh, that's because of all the gummy instances, huh, Rico? That's because all the gummies.
I guess so. You're building a case.
I mean, it was but Rico, in all fairness, wasn't this country started with cherry picking?
No, it was started by genocide.
Oh, no, it was started with an honest.
Oh my God!
It was started with an honest admission about who chopped down the cherry tree.
That's cherry picking.
That was and that cherry tree story was I believe that cherry tree story was debunked multiple times.
Government propaganda.
I don't know about all that.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, the government lies. What?
Government continues to lie, and I don't see why you people continue to support this government.
I do see them doing a bunch of backtracking though in this, and the reality is that they should not be imposing on Americans' rights to choose what substances they want to consume, and they should not be infringing on your Second Amendment rights, and that's just is what it is.
I just wish I would have gone to law school because I would be that lawyer who'd just be like suing the government left and right for everything I could think of.
Yes.
They need to stay out of our medicine cabinet.
We have enough of those, Mandy. I think if you had gone to law school, you would have done something elevated and different.
Probably.
I don't know.
Or I get assassinated.
I mean, there's no doubt that we have a problem in terms of how the Second Amendment is interpreted in this country. And there are some places where it is, where we could do a better job of limiting assault weapons in the hands of people under 25 who typically also have a history of mental health issues. And We also have a problem on the other side where an expungement of a cannabis felony does not restore someone's Second Amendment rights. And if you know anything about cannabis users who are passionate about cannabis, they love their accoutrements, their paraphernalia. So the chances that they would be the gun owners that wouldn't store their guns properly is probably the opposite. They would have all the cool bags and the locks and the biometric safes and the acrylic little glass accoutrements on them. They'd be like, look, I got this.
If guns were Hetty Riggs,
scan on my shit joint.
You're funny. If guns were Hetty Riggs.
So, I mean, we have to have a conversation about what reasonable gun reform looks like. And we also have to have a conversation about destigmatizing cannabis, and that means treating it the way we treat anything else. Mandy had a good point around how we treat alcohol in the house, yada, yada, yada. So I think this is one of those places that shows the painful lack of progress around destigmatizing cannabis users.
To me, the only legitimate form of what you're referring to as far as legitimate gun control would be requiring background checks for mentally ill and checking people out before they get issued licenses. Other than that, there should be no other types of gun control, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I do think gun control needs to be defined as more than using both hands while discharging a firearm, Jason. And I do think that
well, some of us can shoot with one.
We have data in, and I think it's important for us to look at that data. And that data clearly shows that people under 25 probably don't need access to high capacity magazines and assault weapons. I'm not saying that all Americans shouldn't have access to assault weapons. I'm not saying that the AR-15 isn't as American as baseball and apple pie.
America.
I am saying that if you look at the statistics of these crazy mass school shooters, the vast majority of them are young men under 25 years old. And I think we need to take a look at that data and make the proper policy adjustments, and digging in and bearing down and just going Second Amendment, go, 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 grr, 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 yahoo, yahoo, whatever, pry my dead hands off my firearm isn't going to work to keep kids safe. And so I think we do need to take a look at how the Second Amendment, which does include a well-regulated militia as sort of that preceding text around why we're allowed to have guns. We don't have a well-regulated militia, and we don't have gun policy that makes any sense in this country anymore.
That is so right.
I don't think anything makes sense in this country.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Right.
You can't rent a car till you're 25, but you can buy an extended capacity magazine, AR-15,
and you can go to war on behalf of our country.
Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, a rental car can be an assault weapon.
Totally. Yeah.
Bullshit.
I remember I was in LA when that old dude drove through the farmers market.
Oh yeah, in Venice. Yeah, bro, that was
Santa Monica. Yeah, it was gnarly.
Yeah. Yes.
But I'm also pro-gun. I smoke a ton of weed, but I think there's enough science out that folks' brains aren't really well formed until 25, and what's the rush at that point?
Yes. And on those brain formations, we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.